This is a challenge that I give to a lot of the people that I'm mentoring, just as like a personal challenge. And so I wanted to challenge myself to see how I would do it with some of the new knowledge that I have. And I think these are really good challenges for beginners because you're not like trying to develop something new. You're developing something that exists. And most people know what it is. And all you're doing is trying to figure out the best way to develop it as a game developer. So let's say we have a deck of cards. Now, I hope most people know what a deck of cards is. 52 cards, 13 values of cards, ace is 1, going 2 through 10, and then jack, queen, king. That's 13 values, and then there's 4 suits, hearts, diamonds, spades, and clubs. And so each card has a value and a suit, and you shuffle these up, and you can play various games with them. But the idea of a deck of cards is something that I think is really cool to try to develop. And so what I wanted to talk through today is like how to develop this or how I would go about developing it. There's no real like one way to do this. The way I do it today, some people may say like, that's a terrible way to do it. And then I may come back a year from now and be like, oh wow, I can't believe I did it that way. But what we want to do is we basically want to spawn a deck of cards into our world, and that's what we're going to work on. So we're going to build a card, and then we're going to use something to build a deck of those cards, and then we will show how to like show what card is on the top. And then if we have time, we'll shuffle the cards, and then that way the top card would be something random. I have Unreal Engine 5.4 open, so you can use any version. I'm just using 5.4 because it's what I have on my PC at the moment. We can actually just start with a blank project. We don't need any of this stuff. If you want to use a different template, you can. I'm just gonna use blank, and I'll call this deck building. We can use blueprint, desktop, maximum. We'll put the starter content in just so we have some of the stuff. I'll put it in my Unreal Engine projects folder, and let's create it. Now, I did pre-bake some assets that I'm going to load in here. So I'm just gonna create a new folder for the assets that I'm going to load in. And the first one will be, I'm gonna import just a mesh for a card that I made. So let's call this M card front back. And then actually I have another asset I want to import. I made this cool Jim Douglas card back. So for my card back material, I will just put that in there, hit apply. And then look, now my card has this cool card back. I'm also going to take this RGB value and plug it into my roughness so it looks really shiny. It's like this shiny, but then actually you can kind of see it, but not really. The spaces where the lettering and this little design is are actually not shiny. That's something fun. So that's my card back. My card base is just like the edges of the card, just so they're not like ugly looking. Card front, if you hold 3 and click, you'll get this 3 value vector, which you can use to make a color. And I'm gonna do like, try to match the color that's on the front. And then for roughness, I'll do 0.1. That's my card mesh. I also want to do a new level. I don't like this open world level. Save this level as. I'm just gonna do sandbox. All right, let's make some blueprints. I'm gonna start by making my card, BP card. And I want to have my static mesh. This will be my card. There we go. And let's just see how it looks in the game. Do 2 of them so we can see the front and the back. Let's put them over here so we can see them when they roll into the project. What is this, 180? Is it? Yeah, there we go. All right, so now we can see the front and the back. And I can see that my card front is actually not quite the right. Looks like it's a little too blue. So now I got that. So we know we want to show the suit and the value of the card. Now most cards like have it in the like top and bottom corners. It's always like the top left, whatever, no matter which way you're holding the card, right? So I struggled with this actually for a while because I was like, what's the best way to do this? And the thing that I decided on was to use a widget. And the reason is I just found it to be the easiest, if I'm being honest. I tried like 3 different methods, and actually the easiest was adding a text to my card. But then the problem with that was the special characters that I was using couldn't be used because they're I don't know, Unreal Engine wouldn't let me use them. So let's call this WBP card values. I'm going to use a vertical box. I'm going to set the vertical box as the base, and then I want to set this to desired, so it only takes up the amount of space I want. And then I'll do a text and then another text. Now, so that I don't get confused, I always like to name these right off the bat. So this is going to be text value. This is going to be text suit. I want both these to be variables so that I could access them in my event graph. Now, here's what I want to do. I want to get this suit and say set text. And what I'm doing now is I'm allowing, I'm going to update these when, so like, I'll show you. I'll just make one. Let's try the ace of spades. All right, and then let's make both of these centered. So it doesn't get weird. I want to make the suit a little bit bigger. Let's try 60. And then this maybe could be 40. All right, so that's what's going to appear in the top and bottom of the card. Now I'm going to add a widget. And I'm going to call this widget 1 because I'm going to need 2 of them. But let's do card values. All right, so see now it's like kind of like floating. So all I need to do is I can just like align this basically. So let's do rotation. All right, let's do this. All right, does that look like good? Put it up here. All right, now I can just Control D to duplicate this, and I will just put minus 71, minus 114, 0. Boom, got a card. All right, let's look how it looks in our game. All right, so now we have a card, but what we need is I need to be able to change that value when we spawn a card. Otherwise, we're just going to end up with like all ace of spades. So let's go back here. I want to set the text of the suit and value when we spawn the card. So I'll just drag off this, promote it to a variable. I'm going to call this suit, and then text value, set text. All right, and then this one can be called value. And both of these need to be instance editable, expose on spawn. All right, now that's done. This is actually where I had a little bit of the issue, because it was hard for me to figure out how to change these values during runtime. So I'm going to delete this. Let's grab both of these, pull them in here. And then I want to create widget, and this is going to be my card values widget. And then look at this. Now I have access to those values. So I can actually set them here as variables as well. So I'll just promote this to variable and call it suit. And I'll promote this to variable and call this value. And then what we need to do is say set widget. And then we can pass this widget that we created as these two widgets, and it will like override them. And just to show that this works, my card suit, let's make it hearts, and let's make the value 7. So right now these are ace of spades, and when I press play, it's now a 7 of hearts. Magic. Is this your card? Would it be advantageous to use a struct for the card values? You could use a struct. Matter of fact, curveball, let's use a struct. All you would do, what you would need to do actually is define a struct. So we would go to blueprint structure, and this is going to be F card values. And then we just need to assign 2 variables here. Let's call the first one suit. This will be text. And then the second one called value. And it's also going to be text. And then here you would just create 1 values. And this is going to be card values. Let's do diamonds. And we'll do the old king of diamonds, right? And then what do we got to do here? We don't want to change our widget and add another step of work. We could just pull this in here and then pass those in instead. And just to show that that works, when we did this, 7 of diamonds, and if we do this, it should be the king of whatever we pick. Bam, look at that. All right, but the point is, we don't want to have to do this for every card. We really want Unreal Engine to do this for us, right? So let's save all. I also want to make these instance editable and expose on spawn, so I can set them when I spawn these cards, right? Because what I really want to do is spawn a deck of cards. So let's find where 000 is. And then I think we want to set this to like 5. I figured out with my testing. That puts it like kind of right on the ground. Let's go 2. The reason I want to do this is I'm going to create some more classes. So like 600, and I want to delete these. But I got to remember it was at 2. Let's create a folder first of all. We got some blueprints here. Blueprints. All right. So I want to create 2 new classes. The first one is going to be pawn BP player. This is literally just going to have a camera on it. Camera. And I'll put the rotation on the Y at -60. Yeah, so we're looking down. We're looking down on the world. So now we have our BP player, and this is all I want in there. I don't want anything else. I'm going to do, I actually figured out this the hard way. I need a player controller. And the only reason is because of this one stupid value called enable click events, so that I can click with my mouse. And in here on begin play, I'm just going to set show mouse cursor. So that way when we start the game, we can see the mouse. And then the last one I'm gonna make really quick is my game mode. Because this is quick skill building, I'm just gonna make a game mode. Now, if you're making a multiplayer game, this is not how you would do this. If you're making any game that's like anything shippable, you might not wanna do it this way. This is just a quick demonstration, but let's set up this. We're gonna set this in our game mode. We're gonna set the player controller to BP player controller and the default pawn to player. And that should be all we need to do there. And then in our project settings, under maps and modes, do this in case we want to reopen it again. We're gonna set the default game mode to BP game mode. And that way, whenever we open the level, our game mode loads, and then all of our base classes load. So we have our player, it's just a camera. We have our player controller, we have our game mode. Let's press play, and we see nothing. We can't really interact with anything. Let's spawn one card to start. Spawn actor from class. It's going to be our card. Let's split this. I don't want to mess with the rotation or the transform, but I do want to set that location to 2, just so that it's not like through the floor. And there we go. Do I want to change this one? All right, if I do this, now the card is going to be spawned. All right, I do want to change the rotation, but I kind of want to change the rotation of this. Let's try this. There we go. There's my card. If anybody is watching this like later as a recording, or if you're following along, you don't have to do things the way that I do. If you think of a different way, go for it. Let me know how it goes, because again, this is about pushing yourself and like trying to see where you at skill wise, so you know like where do you need to build skills. All right, so we can spawn one card, which is cool. Let's set up the click event for this card. I actually want to be able to click on the card and flip it over and see what it is. So let's set up on clicked. This is where we need that enable click events in the player controller. So on my card, on clicked, start by just set world rotation. We can do some more fun stuff, but let's just get it working, like the click and flip version. Get world rotation. And then I want to also, oh, there we go, add. I feel like this used to work. When I try to add, like do this, it's like, hey, you can't add those. But I feel like that used to work. I'm just gonna split pins. So I only want to rotate it in one direction anyway. I just want to rotate it in the Y. Oh, I think this needs to be the mesh. And I think this needs to be the mesh. Let's just set the Y to 180. We will use this, but when we're doing something fun. So when I click it, oh, that's not what I wanted at all. Oh, I want to pass these in. Click. Look at that. I flipped it over. Think of a card that's 7 of hearts. Now watch.
Is this your card?
Now let's make it look fun to flip. Let's do timeline. Flip card. Set world location and rotation. We're going to do this on update. Here's basically what I want to do. I want it to like slowly flip over the card, right? If you're watching this, you could try to pause it, I guess. Think about how you would do this. I don't just want it to like flip in place, because then it's going to like go through the card or go through the ground below it or whatever. I want it to like lift up and flip and then place it back down. So that's why I'm using location and rotation. And again, prototype this already, so I'm cheating a little bit. But then what I want to do is I want, if the card is already flipped over and I click it again, I want it to delete itself. So I'm actually going to create a condition called is flipped. And I'm going to set this to false to start. And then I want this to go into the false pin. And if it is flipped, we're going to destroy it. And then I just want to set is flipped to true after this finishes the animation. The first thing I actually need to do, and this is what I figured out again the hard way, is there's probably a way to do the math. I wasn't smart enough to figure it out. So what I actually want to do is I want to create references to the starting values of these. Get world location. And I'm going to promote this to a variable called starting location. And I want to set this before this timeline starts to play. And I'm going to do the same thing for rotation. Because what I want to do is actually like add to these. So like we can do a get world location again, and I want to lerp something, and this is going to go into here. Lerping, if you don't know, is a linear interpolation. So it's going to go between whatever A is and whatever B is at some alpha, which means from 0 to 1. So 0 being A, 1 being B, and if it's at 0.5, then it's halfway in between them. So if I'm trying to find like alert between my left hand and my right hand. Left would be 0, right would be 1. And if I get a value of 0.5, then it's like here. It's a linear interpolation. But we need some value here. So here in my timeline, I'm going to create 2 tracks. The first one is going to be, again, location. The second one is going to be rotation. I'll do the rotation one first because this one's going to be really easy. It's going to go from 0, 0 to 1, 1, and 1 and time being the end of my timeline, and 1 and value being 1 as like the final value. This one, I want to do 0, 0 to start, and I want to do 1, 0 to end because I want it to land back where it started. But in the middle, I want it to be somewhere else. So I'm gonna go to 0.4 and 1, and that way it's gonna like go up and then go back down. And if you wanted to, you could even like do a second one at like 0.6 and 1. That way it's gonna go up, hold in the up position for a little bit, and then go back down. You'll see how this works in a second. And this location is going to go to here, and then we'll alert our rotation as well. Oh, this is not this. This is this. And this is this. So we want to go from wherever our starting location was, which we set back here, and our starting rotation to some other value. Oh, this one we don't need. We know it's 180, right? We know this is going to go to here. This for the top one I didn't use alert, which is weird, but I worked on this for a really long time. It was super annoying. Split. We want some z-age. We want to multiply by value. This is the height that we want it to raise up. 150 seemed to work. Let's see how this works. There might be a bug. Ooh, that was cool. Let's try it again. Something got weird. I think it's this. Oh, it's because we had that 90-degree rotation on it, right? On Z. So this needs to be 90 and 90. Boom. Look at that. Yeah. All right. Let's show it again. See how it like lifts up and flips? So cool. All right, but now look, when I click, it should be destroying it, but it's not, right? We have this, so is flipped. We're setting it to true, which means it should destroy. Again, this is where I got a little bit frustrated, and I found out I had to do something here. Hey everyone, it's Jim from the future, and during the stream we were having a little bit of an issue trying to get the card to click again once we had flipped it, and it's just a really simple fix that I missed when we were going through the stream. So if we go to our BP card, and then on each of our widgets there will be a collision channel. We just want to set that to no collision on both of those, and after we click the card we should be able to click it again and it goes away, and then we can flip the next card. So there's our quick fix, and let's get back to the tutorial. Last thing I want to do is I want to actually show how I would develop the whole deck. Let's, instead of spawning one card, let's spawn all of the cards. So how would we do that? Well, let's think about it. What do we need? We need to spawn 52 cards. So should I just do like a for loop with the first index of 1 and the last index of 52? But I want to assign these values. So the way that I thought of it is, let's create some variables. And this one is going to be called values, and we'll do it as a text, and we'll do it as an array of text. So now we can add a bunch of array elements, 13 to be exact. And we can just start with ace, queen, king. All right, so that's all the card values that I need, and then let's just duplicate this. We'll call this suits, and this one's going to have 4 suits, and they are hearts, diamonds, spades, or clubs and spades. Right now what we can do is we can do a for each loop, with our values, and then we can nest that baby with another for each loop. Our suits, and we can pop these in like this. And now we're going to spawn 4 times 13 cards, which is 52. But the problem is they're all going to spawn at the same location. So we want them to stack up, right? It's going to look a little goofy because we're using a mesh that's like wider than a normal card. This would be like playing with like cardboard cards, but we'll get it done. I know that the mesh is like 3 or 4 wide. So I'm going to create another, I'm going to split this out. Add, I'm going to multiply, and I want to create a variable. And this is going to be called card width, height, thickness, card thickness. And let's just set that to 3. We can always fix it later. And then we want to multiply it by something. And this is going to be like wherever the last card ended up, we want to add that on top of it, right? This would be the starting point. So let's create another variable called card count. And then after it spawns, let's increment it, and then boom, look at that beautiful stack of cards. And there's so the last card that spawned was my King of Spades. And that's because the last value in the array is king and the last suit is spades. Let's move this player up a little bit so we get a better view of it. Let's go to 1,000. And we want to move back a little bit. Let's call it 450. No, minus 450. All right, there's my deck of cards. All right, let's just go back. Can't really see it here, but there is like a whole deck of cards, and if I could get that other thing to work that wasn't working, then we could slowly like get rid of them. Maybe one way to do that would be just do this. Let's delay half a second so you can get a good look at it, and then we'll just destroy here because I don't want to waste people's time trying to figure out why my widget isn't clickable. We can see that there's like a whole deck of cards here. And we can click through all of them if we want. Now, there is one flaw with this. I can like double click cards and get them all weird. Like they'll just keep going up. So to fix the like up and up and up bug, you probably just want to maybe set a new variable here that's like is flipping. And then like when we start to flip it, we set that to true so that it can't move. And then when it finishes, then you set it back to false or something. There's a variety of ways you could do it. The shuffling, though, is a little bit more of a challenging problem. Essentially, how I would do it is whenever I'm spawning these cards, I would put them into an array so we can keep track of all the cards that are in the deck. And then when we want to shuffle them, I would just shuffle around that array and then restack them up with the new position in the array. So you might just create like a new custom event down here called shuffle. And then whatever that array is, like here, we can move this deck. This would be an array of these boys. And we would add the item as we're spawning it to this array. And then this array would have a list of every card that's in the deck. And then you can just, how do you shuffle an array, right? There's a variety of ways to do it. I would probably create a function that like picks a random array item, adds it to a new holding array, and then delete that one from the array, and then do that until nothing's left in the array. And then you have a new deck that is randomized, and then set that to deck, and then boom. And then you would need to restack them in the world space. So you'd probably want to create this as like some type of function that then you could call when you're stacking the deck back up. Yeah, I know that this works. There's also like another one, random from Stream. This is like if you wanted to do like seeding for like procedural generation, you want to have a seed. Let's say you wanted to give someone a deck ID of like 3, 4, 5, 6, then they would always get the same randomized seed basically a little bit advanced. But yeah, you could essentially just pull a random item, put it into a new holding. Like I would create like a new function for this, set new deck order. This would be a local variable called new deck order. I also like to put an L on the end of my local variables so I remember that they're just here. And then this should also be an array. Get, and then add, and then this. We probably want to create a reference to whatever this item is also. Next card. This would need to be some type of a loop. We could use a while loop probably. They're a little bit tricky, but we could use like length is greater than 0. While the length of deck is greater than 0, we're going to loop through this. We're going to get a random card, set a reference, add it to a new deck order, and then remove that one from our deck. This one's like a little bit shady. And then set deck. There's probably some flaws with this logic, but you also might want, instead of like literally setting this deck, maybe create another reference to this called old deck order. And that way you're not directly removing it from the deck. Then you always have like a reference to your old deck kind of thing. So yeah, this way like is a little bit safer probably. So while like we start by just getting a reference to our old deck, set it as old deck order. As long as old deck order is greater than 1, get a random card, set a reference to it, add that to our new deck, remove it from our old deck. And then when this reaches 0, then this loop is done. And then we take our new deck order and set it to deck. And then we have a shuffled deck. And then you would just need to create another function down here to like restack